Howdy, y'all. I would just like to take a moment to go over the Bitcoin price chart that I've got pulled up here. So I've added some timeline dates and I will go over that here in a second, but it we have generally just kind of been trending sideways, but I think that the reason for that is because if you are trying to make a very large move upwards, you're going to need a very large springboard to jump from. And I think that's exactly what Bitcoin is doing, is that if we want a big move like this at the last part of this wave, this simple wave pattern that I have drawn here, you're going to need a consolidation period that's probably just as big. So, take this, turn it sideways, and it's about like that, which would get us up to around, 100 to 110K, somewhere around in that area. I don't know what this vertex is going to do, but I think the way that I've placed it is that this move here, this move here that started right after the Bitcoin ETFs were launched, we basically bounced off this 150-day moving average. And so it went up and then it came back down and hit again this 150-day moving average. And so I just think that at some point we will hit the 150-day moving average again before ultimately moving back up, just as a simple pull out of my butt technical analysis for you. I'm not a financial advisor. I literally just told you I made this up. Anyway, it's fun. It's fun to speculate, is it not? Anyway, I have labeled here things in green are supposed to be good events. Yeah, that's all I've got right now. And then the one I've got here in red is the only one that I've identified so far that I think I'm pretty sure that's definitely going to be a negative event. And I will go over that here in a second. But the green events are the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs, which had a short downturn and then obviously was a huge success. And we are still hovering around what I also have labeled here is the current all-time high. Sorry, it's a little busy if you can't see everything. The current all-time high is around 74K, and the previous all-time high from the last cycle is 69K. So we're hovering just underneath that, and I think we're in people complain, but I think we're in a very good position. This blue box is still the returns in days since the Bitcoin ETFs launched, so it's up over 30%, and it's been 159 days, 160. I think I just need to move that to the current candle. So yeah, it's 160 days past the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs. And this move here from this initial starting period has been a good move, and we're consolidating sideways. And I think everyone is expecting another big move eventually. But I think we have further down to go in the short term, and also further down to go in the long, or this will definitely put selling pressure right here. This red line event, will definitely put selling pressure on the price at whatever price Bitcoin is at, but we'll go over that in a second. The other green lines that I've got here are the 90, 180, 270, and then obviously 1 year's days past the launch of the Bitcoin ETF. And the reason why that is because institutions have to do their due diligence, and they have internal compliance that tells them that they have 90 days or 180 days or however long to spend researching a topic. And so my theory is that around these 90-ish, 180-ish, the 270, every 90 days, or even every 30 to 60 days, somewhere I think putting those in is too frequent, but we should see, in my opinion, some upward movement on those days or around those time periods, because that's when the okay should be given for those companies to invest in these ETFs, or let alone Bitcoin itself. So that's what those green lines are for. The orange line here is obviously the Bitcoin halving, which was 1 day away from 420. The other green line that I have right here is grayscale. Let me take a moment to go over to bitcointreasuries.net, which is a great place for you to go and check out a lot of information that's publicly listed all in one place. And it's all open. I don't know that it's open source, but it's open contributed. So you can contribute if you have the source of a company that has an updated amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet that you know of that no one else seems to be updating. You could submit that to them and they'll get that updated for you. But Grayscale has done nothing but sell. They've had a few green day. I don't think Grayscale will ever have positive net inflow. I think they will probably have some Bitcoin, but I don't think they're going to have very much. They're definitely going to go below the 1% that they've got now. But basically, this entire time, they've done nothing but sell Bitcoin. They've done nothing but sell Bitcoin since June 30th of 2021. They had a lot, significantly, obviously, but they are also tied up into other bankruptcies with Genesis and the digital currency group or whatever it is, digital asset group. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen with Grayscale, but these positive inflow days, I think, are numbered. And if you do the math, the number of days it will take at an average, they are losing, or what I had it here at 2,117.175 Bitcoin per day on average for 160 days, which they've lost 338,840 Bitcoin, give or take, which is more than the existing balance that they have now. So, by 50-ish thousand Bitcoin, 60 almost. So they've already lost half of their Bitcoin, and the other half will be relinquished by this date right here, October 9th. If they continue to sell at an average of 2,117.175 Bitcoin per day, they will have none left by October 9th. So that is a positive note in my head that they cannot continue to sell just this entire period. They will be exhausted sometime. When I said that I think that they will still have some Bitcoin, yeah, they will probably still have some Bitcoin in their trust. It will, be a smaller ETF. Maybe it could even still be one of the larger ones, the fourth or fifth largest one eventually. But sometime in this period right here, Grayscale is going to be exhausted. The bankruptcies and the lawsuits and everything will finally be over, hopefully, and then we'll be done with that. However, right on its heels is this one right here, is the Mt. Gox distribution deadline of October 21st, 2024. So funny how that sort of lined up. There's a lot happening in October. I think October tends to be a turbulent month. But speaking of bankruptcies, let me first go to the FTX victims. It doesn't look like they're getting their money anytime soon. Who knows when, but the people who lost their money, somehow FTX had $8 billion that was invested in something else, and so technically still had the money, and they are going, now that is the money that it was not the original Bitcoin, but it's like the value of the Bitcoin, and the creditors are hopefully going to get back. 98% of people would get back 118%. So they would make quote unquote money from the time that they lost it on FTX a couple of years ago. But people would be obviously pissed about that because Bitcoin has gone up, 300% since then. So kind of a tough situation to be in. But it seems as though if you read through this, that the bankruptcy estate is trying to hold on to the $8 billion and not pass it on to the people that lost their money. So that's why the whole bankruptcy thing is such a racket. There is a guy, I forget his name. I was listening to him a lot on X. He's been really deep into the bankruptcy cases for FTX and Genesis and a lot of the other major ones. Paul Dixon, I think that's his name. Is that maybe? Perhaps. I'm close. I know I'm close. Anyway, so I feel bad for the FTX people because, it was supposed to be, in my head, sort of like Binance. I never really I wasn't too big into exchanges after I found Strike. So I even left Coinbase, and Strike is really the only thing that I use to buy my Bitcoin. So I just didn't have a need to get onto FTX. But I feel for those people that thought that this was something cool and new and different than Binance, Coinbase, and whatever other platforms are out there for buying and selling and trading Bitcoins and shitcoins. People, if you're going to gamble, you might as well have a good place to do it. But on the positive note, it's good for the people that had Bitcoin on Mt. Gox, because it seems as though they will get most, if not all of it back. And it is in kind, meaning that they will actually get Bitcoin back that they lost almost a decade or over a decade ago. Yeah, in kind. They'll get Bitcoin and or Bitcoin Cash rather than fiat. The Bitcoin Cash will probably be sold off immediately. The Bitcoin, these people, if they had, a handful, 10, right? If you had 10 Bitcoin in this platform back then, you are, sitting on a few $100,000 worth of Bitcoin. And depending on your life circumstances, maybe that is a lot of money to you. So if you were buying and selling Magic the Gathering cards on this online exchange here that Mark Karnopoulos, however you say his name, the old CEO, Mark Karpellis was the old CEO. I don't think that's him. No, it is not. If that's all you were doing, now you're grown up, you probably have a house or a car, and you have bills and expenses. So being able to get back several hundred thousands, if not potentially millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin is probably life-changing money for you. And I do not blame those who will finally, also in this probably up till the very last day. If not, who knows what could happen. There might be an extension file. I'm not that deeply involved in all the cases, but if everyone gets all of their Bitcoin back by or on this day, I expect to see selling pressure on or very near around this date. Simply for the fact that those people are obviously going to want some money to cash out on. Totally understandable, because those are just everyday. The people that are selling there are going to be everyday normal people. There's going to be a lot though, because I don't know that this says how many Bitcoin they've got, but they have hundreds of thousands. They've got 60. Is it really only 65? I thought it was only 65,000. That's really not that much, but it is several billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, so it will still put downward pressure on the market. But still, 65,000. I mean, like we just went over, Grayscale's ETF has sold off many multiples of that in the past 6 months, 5 months even. So yeah, it'll be a short-term downward pressure, but the market will scoop it back up. But I thought I would put it on the calendar here, on the chart, just to show that, potentially that's what could happen. So that sort of explains the chart here. I will keep this updated as best as I can for now, but I just think that potentially this is a wave pattern that we could see. It's going to bounce off this 150 or potentially the 200-day, which would be a little bit lower and more smooth down below there. And then bounce off. It's going to bounce off something. It could bounce off this, the blue 100-day moving average. Who knows? So the last thing I do want to take a look at is, I don't think one of the other reasons why I think that we're also going to continue to see downward pressure, and it's hard for me to put this on the chart, is the Bitcoin miner capitulation. So this is obviously an outlier when the Bitcoin mining ban was implemented in China. A whole bunch of people moved, and now we have moved on, and really no one has cared. It's terrible news back then, but if you look at the past two halvings, this one right here was the previous halving in 2017. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, if you look at the previous halvings, the amount of hash rate that has gone down has been roughly about 40%. And then it has recovered, taken some time to recover since then and move on. Now, if you look at where we are currently, we haven't gone down 40%. We have, not even really gone down that much, to be honest with you, maybe 10-ish percent. I think we could see greater minor capitulation. It's really not even that big of a slowdown if you really look at it, if you look at it over a longer period of time, yeah, you could sort of see a downward slope right here, but we've had downward sloping periods of time. This one, I guess, if you by comparison, is maybe a little bit more steep than previous times, but it's really not that bad. So I would expect to see more selling pressure from the smaller miners that are unable to keep up with the larger miners. Like if you watched my video, Argo blockchain stock analysis, I kind of go over that, where they would be one of the ones that would be losing out on their hash power and potentially just selling all their Bitcoin and not keeping any on their balance sheet, and hopefully would just, like I said, stop selling shares. But they're going to do what they're going to do to make a business run and make themselves wealthy and not anyone else. So that's sort of just a quick rundown on the Bitcoin price for now. So I hope, if y'all like this, let me know. If you don't, also let me know. Looking for improvement and ways to give you more information. What are you looking for in the Bitcoin market? So I'll see you next time.